All right, let's jump right into this. Imagine, just for a second, a single warship sailing straight into some of the most highly contested waters on the entire planet. Naturally, it instantly sparks a massive standoff between two global military powerhouses. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to break down the 2021 incident between the UK and Russia that absolutely shocked the Black Sea. Now, this isn't the plot of some summer action movie, this is a very real geopolitical chess match, and the stakes, well, they were incredibly high.
So, the year is 2021. The location? The Black Sea. One lone British warship enters these dark blue waters, and almost immediately, boom, it triggers an intense, frankly furious reaction from Russia. We're looking at a timeline that represents a moment where the whole world just collectively held its breath, wondering if a simple, routine transit was about to snowball into a major international conflict.
Section 1. The Black Sea Encounter, June 2021. During a period of extremely high international tension, especially between Russia, Ukraine, and Western nations, the British Royal Navy sent one of its modern destroyers, the HMS Defender, right into the region.
And man, this single British warship's journey would very quickly become one of the most closely watched naval incidents of the entire year. The world's radar was literally and figuratively locked right onto this one ship. But to really grasp why a single destroyer caused such a massive uproar, we gotta look closely at the map.
Section 2. Why Geography Matters. Strategic High Stakes. See, the Black Sea isn't just any body of water. It's absolutely crucial because it serves as the connecting hub for several heavily armed countries. And right at the center of all this tension sits Crimea, a peninsula that's been the subject of a major ongoing international dispute ever since Russia annexed it in 2014.
The players involved here make this situation incredibly volatile. Just think about it. You have Russia controlling the eastern coast and occupying Crimea. Then you have Ukraine claiming that exact same northern coastline. Meanwhile, Turkey controls the only way in or out to the Mediterranean Sea. And on top of all that, NATO is right there, backing Ukraine and advocating for freedom of navigation. It is just staggering to realize how much heavy-hitting military hardware is packed into this one enclosed body of water. I mean, it's roughly the size of California, yet it actively hosts the naval fleets of multiple competing global powers.
So the crucial question we have to ask is, why does the Black Sea matter so much? When you have that much military hardware and historical rivalry crammed into one single space, how explosive could the presence of just one foreign warship really be? Well, as we're about to see, very.
Which brings us to Section 3, two clashing stories, the controversial route. Because what happened next is just fascinating. The HMS Defender sailed its route, but that single physical journey triggered two completely opposite realities, depending entirely on who you asked.
Let's look at the British perspective first. Britain justified their route using a well-established concept in international law called innocent passage. Basically, this allows a vessel to pass through territorial waters as long as it doesn't threaten peace or security. According to the British government, the HMS Defender was simply exercising this lawful right through waters that Britain firmly, absolutely does not recognize as Russian territory.
But if we flip the coin, we see a completely different definition taking hold in Moscow: provocation. Russia reacted with absolute fury. They did not see this as a peaceful transit at all. Moscow viewed the route as a deliberate, dangerous action specifically designed to anger them. To Russia, this was a severe violation of what they consider their sovereign territorial waters.
So you get these totally clashing accounts. On one side, Russia claims their forces actually fired warning shots and even dropped bombs near the British warship's route to force it away. They formally labeled the whole thing a serious violation. But Britain's account? They completely reject that narrative. The UK stated that 0 warning shots were fired, that the ship was on an internationally recognized route, and they were simply exercising freedom of navigation. Literally two entirely different stories for the exact same event.
Yet despite these wild contradictions and Russia's claims of extreme countermeasures, there's one very important thing to remember here. This was not a war. Both nations, despite all the heated rhetoric and the completely opposing accounts, were very aware they were not in an active state of armed conflict with one another. Section 4. The real danger. Escalation. The situation out there was essentially a spark in a powder keg. The actual danger wasn't just about who was telling the truth in their press releases. No, the real danger was the terrifying risk of an accidental conflict.
When you have highly advanced British and Russian military forces operating in such incredibly close proximity, especially during a period of intense political tension, you are taking a massive gamble. The true threat here is unintended escalation.
Think about how it happens. It all starts with a minor mistake in navigation, or, maybe a tiny blip in radar communication. That minor mistake instantly becomes a sudden military misunderstanding by the opposing force, who is already on high alert with their weapons drawn. And before politicians can even pick up the phone to talk it out, you have an accidental escalation into a severe, potentially catastrophic international crisis. That is exactly how fragile the situation on the water really was.
Section 5. Military Signaling Explained. The bigger message. Because, the entire incident was never just about a single ship getting from point A to point B. It was really about the bigger message being sent to the rest of the world.
When you decode the behavior of both nations, a pretty fascinating strategy emerges. For Britain, this was a clear signal that Russia cannot just dictate naval operations in waters whose legal status is actively disputed. It was also a direct physical demonstration of support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, for Russia, their aggressive response was a signal of their own, showing they will fiercely challenge absolutely anything they perceive as a military threat. Both of these powerful nations used a highly dangerous physical encounter simply to send a political message.
To kind of summarize the whole event, in the Black Sea, these multi-million-dollar warships aren't just moving through the water. They are floating broadcasters. They're constantly broadcasting powerful, undeniable messages of military strength and geopolitical intent.
Which leads me to a question I really want you to think about. When heavily armed forces operate this closely together, is the greatest danger the actual weapons themselves, or is it the possibility of a simple misunderstanding? It's honestly terrifying to realize how quickly a supposedly routine naval mission can spiral completely out of control due to a single miscalculation. And this brilliantly brings us to our final takeaway. One ship, two completely different stories, one incredibly dangerous sea. The HMS Defender incident didn't start a war, but it completely peeled back the curtain on the fragility of peace in disputed waters. It shows us that sometimes the most dangerous thing on the water isn't the firepower, it's the friction of opposing realities. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Think about how these military signals shape our world, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.